We're live. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Real Black podcast, Talking Black, as we like to say. And I'm really hearing these clicks. Hopefully, is it wind? Are you near a fan there? With us on the line. Well, first, by way of introduction, thank you, everyone. We got one viewer. It might be myself. But this is I think the third or fourth time we're streaming live, and we got 17 on. Light bearer. So as we fill the room, if you're near keyboard, type in, tell us what part of the world you're watching from. It's a very interesting day, and so the plan is the original plan was to talk about Dick Gregory. He would turn 86 on October 12th. He passed away last August, and with this live format, I wanted to honor his memory by sharing some. I'm going to turn you down real quick until we're ready to go. Share some memories of my orientation meeting, collaboration with Baba Dick, and then I also wanted other people to share their thoughts and memories. But other things have been going on this week that need to be discussed. I'm going to be on the radio tomorrow on WRD with Stephanie Renee, but we have two guests planned. And I've been talking to Charles Woods about some of the stuff that's going on, specifically Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson being cast casting himself as John Henry, and the colorism issues that has brought up. And then also today, if you're following Twitter, Kanye once again is big currency. When you have Kanye and Trump together, that's blowing up Twitter, and some amazing or crazy or insane bipolar moments were happening once again for us to have spectacle on. So Charles will be joining us for the second half, but without further delay, let me see who's in the roll call. With us on the line, my good friend Glenn Ellis, who is a longtime friend and partner in some respects of Baba Dick, and friend of his family. And welcome, Glenn.
Hey, Mike, how are you, brother?
I'm good. Can everybody hear Glenn Ellis on the line? We're trying this. Glenn, welcome. I think we're beyond experiment. We've actually gotten it locked down. We got 43 people watching within a few minutes, and people all over the world. Light bearers from Virginia. We got a lot of East Coast family here. LA, Kakule Kacheki. All right, you could pick a simpler name, but I like your thumbnail. From Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, Minnesota, Colorado, New Jersey. We could create a new version of James Brown's Night Train with this lineup. Buffalo, New York City. People from New York love to differentiate the same way people in Philly. You got to be from a very specific neighborhood in Philadelphia. You can't be from outside in the burbs. You can't be from Bryn Mawr and claim Philly and be real about it. That's why I got my Sixers hat on today, Glenn. So by way of black background, just like tell people who you are and how did you become involved with Dick Gregory?
Well, first of all, Mike, before I do anything, I gotta give you your props, brother, and let you know that clearly there are lots of us who honor and respect the tremendous work that you do with great sacrifice, and we appreciate what you're doing, man. I just want you to know that. And I think that you are an absolute unsung hero and a national treasure for all of us in the diaspora, particularly. Thank you for your work, man. I just have to give you that kind of prop.
I'm very humbled because Glenn, you're a soldier in this game as well, and you're doing this long before I was, and on the radio and all forms of media, and then in terms of expanding from health. I mean, you still have your show on WRD, correct? For people that want to tune in.
I do. Yeah, I do that. I do I do radio in Louisiana. I do KJLH in Los Angeles with Dominique DePrima, which is that's Stevie Wonder station out there in LA. I'm with Ron January and B9 94.9 in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm in Boston on iHeart up there. I do a segment with Patty Jackson here in Philly on Sundays as well. So I try to, in addition to I have my news column, weekly health column that's syndicated in the Black press. So I just, committed to trying to make sure that our communities are as informed about health issues that directly impact their lives. And unfortunately, we're disproportionately impacted by health outcomes. So a part of that is information, which is why my mantra is really about information is the best medicine, which is yeah, absolutely. Which is absolutely a tribute to Dick Gregory's constant reminder that knowledge is power. And so that's why we have to continue to be informed. So I'm committed to that. I came out of Birmingham. I'm a native of Birmingham, Alabama. Grew up there in the '60s and came out of Philadelphia in the '70s for college, and which is how I met and when I encountered Dick Gregory. It was at a time where he was in the early stages of developing his Bahamian diet, which many of us remember as an iconic part of our landscape. And because I was a pre-med student at Penn, he, through a mutual friend, we connected. He needed someone to help work, in an assisting kind of capacity. And that began what was turned out to be a 39-year relationship.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and we knew each other exclusively, but then literally, when after every show, you'd be there driving him someplace, either back to a hotel or whatever. And, I get the sense he was reading a lot of newspapers. What's the private side of Baba Dick? I guess is the question. It seems like you guys went off to another venture, like he'd do 2 hours on stage and then you drive off, and it just seemed like you'd just be there.
Else was going on.
you would just be there at every waking moment, and that was a lot of time with Dick Gregory. I think he only slept 3 or 4 hours a night. He was always reading.
Yeah, if that. I'm almost positive over the course of those 38, 39 years, I don't think there was a single time Dick Gregory ever came into Philadelphia. And he did that often, that I didn't get a call prior to him getting here. Mm-hmm. Whether I was in town, out of town, where we connected or not, he made sure that I knew he was coming into Philadelphia. And as he got older, that expanded outside of the region. So, I remember one time I was in Baton Rouge or Shreveport. I knew I was in Louisiana. I got a call from him. And this was about a year or two prior to his transition. And he said, man, I'm going to be in Baltimore tonight. I need you to come there. And I said, Dick, I'm in Louisiana. And he's like, I need you, man. So what did I do? Get on a plane and fly all the way to Baltimore. And, so it's just, and it was as you mentioned in your introduction, Mike, I do have a good relationship and have always had one with all 10 of his children as well as his wife. And it was very interesting because as we shared with each other, around the time of his transition, how just different recollections and things. And, one of the things that I realized, I said, by the time while you all were growing up and leaving home, going your respective ways, coming into adulthood, I had the fortune of growing up with him in that time period of my life. So I had really something that they didn't have. So not only was Dick, like a good friend and all, but on any given day, he was a father, that I could go to. I was also a son that he could lean on and look for any kind of support that would be appropriately required. And so I benefited from things that in many ways his children did not benefit from. We had conversations that I'm almost positive that he never had an opportunity to have with his children as they were coming into their young adulthood and moving forward. So I consider myself very, very fortunate. Millions of people have said they met Dick Gregory and they know Dick Gregory, but in a very humble sense, I had a very unique and special kind of relationship with him.
So, with all respect, I mean, I'm new. Well, by way of introduction, so like everybody watches the videos and they wonder like, how do we get to do so much? It's like three 2-hour interviews with Dick Gregory. I'm gonna turn you down real quick. 3 2-hour interviews with Dick Gregory. How did it happen? It's just because he was extremely generous and he understood the need of constantly informing people. It seems, even though he's yelling a lot, and it seems like, and maybe you can correct me, was it his frustration at just having to do that, or that was just his passion, his charisma? But when we went up to interview him, it was because I'm interested in film, and he had done a film in the mid '60s called Sweet Love Bitter, and it was his only starring role. I saw he was coming, and my point of entry was, it's like a Finding Forrester kind of thing, where it's like, well, tell me about this movie, and because it's a gem, and then why did you not pursue show business entertainment beyond that? And we came up, me and Daryl DeBrest, and up to New Hope, PA, and we started filming. And after about 20 minutes of him saying, "Look, man, I don't care," that was so long ago. He went off on another line of storytelling, and he was going. What you see is what happened that first time, and we're in this hotel room, and tape started. We had 2 cameras going. Tape started to run out. I said, "Hey, do you mind if we put another tape in? This is great information." And he said, "Sure." And at the time, I mean, and literally, we went through all the tapes that we had, and we probably still literally would be filming now, but he had to go on. He had to go on stage. And then what was interesting was the same stuff that he was saying in the dressing room, he basically turned into his performance that night. And it just seemed like he was on a mission. So I guess, Glenn, the question I have is, like, knowing him for 39 years, what do you see as his core mission? What did he want us to know about ourselves? And concurrently, well, just I'll break it up. What do you think his core passion was? What signifies Dick Gregory to you?
Dick Gregory is what literally was an unapologetic champion for justice, right? Mm-hmm. And he was unapologetic for it. So, and he also Dick Gregory was a medium. So he was so, tuned into the God force in the universe that he was a vessel for information. And he was so receptive to that role that he had access to universal knowledge that he didn't even realize the depth of it. So what you would get from Dick Gregory would be what he felt was the messages and the information that was being passed through him. It allowed him to attract the most brilliant minds in the universe on this planet to provide and supply him with some of the most outstanding information you can imagine. One of my fond recollections is just the degree to which, over the years, I had heard Dick say some of the most outlandish and ridiculous things that were so steeped in conspiracy theories and just absurdities. And because of the length of my relationship with him, over years, eventually, I can say today, everything I heard Dick Gregory say eventually came to pass in terms of some of the theories and the conspiracies and some of the plots that the government was having. And it was just unbelievable. And one of those was, I remember one time, this is back in the 70s, mid to late 70s, we had just finished, he had just run across the country. He ran from Los Angeles to New York. He ran 50 miles a day for 76 consecutive days, crossed the George Washington Bridge on July 4th, 1976. So shortly thereafter, I think Jimmy Carter was still in office, and he asked me, I had to draft a letter for him, right? And then I get it typed up, and he signed it, and it was a letter to the White House, Jimmy Carter. And he sent a letter saying, Mr. President, I'm writing you because I'm appalled at how the United States government has been in a conspiracy to perform genocide on the American people. I'm scared. I'm a young guy. I'm scared to be involved with something crazy like that, right? And he sent the letter on. And then a few months later, or whatever time passed, he gets a response from the office of the president that said, Mr. Gregory, we're in receipt of your letter, and you'll get an appropriate response from the chairman of the Senate Health Committee. He got a letter from Ted Kennedy that said, Dick, you and I are neighbors in Massachusetts, and we've known each other for a while, and I just can't believe you think it would be a conspiracy when what you're referring to is the fact that the polio vaccine, you probably aren't old enough to remember, but we used to have to get these polio vaccines. At school, they line us up and you get these sugar cubes that they put a vaccine on for polio, which quite was a very horrendous epidemic in this country in the 50s and early 60s. But during the clinical trials for the vaccine, they found out that they tested it on monkeys and found that in a significant percentage of the monkeys, it caused cancer. So that was never really disclosed as they put that out there. And so Dick tied that little incident into the rise of cancer and the growth of the cancer industry, right?
Yes. And
so I saw with my own eyes a letter from Ted Kennedy on official stationery from the Senate that said that it was true, but it was not intentional, and that it did cause cancer. And certain people would just, because of their DNA and their makeup, it would cause cancer. So just things like that I saw him do and reveal so early in the game that made a believer out of me, so to speak. So I never doubted. I'd have to hold my breath sometime when I hear him say certain things like that. My experience had already shown me that eventually this will come to pass and the truth will come out. And so what you referred earlier to how he would be shouting or yelling at you while he's talking or have no patience or, and would be quick to tell you while you're interviewing, and you try to chime in and say, well, let me tell you, I don't care about what you think. I'm here about what I want to say, because he had that kind of conviction about what his mission was, to get the information out there.
Now you met him, what year were you in college?
This was in 1973, 74, something like that. I was either a sophomore, junior at Penn.
So a lot of people watching, a lot of the people that discover the videos, they remember when he was the number one speaker on the college circuit, the Vietnam War things. What were some of the issues, passions, concerns back then? What did he say that first time you heard him speak that got you locked in?
Well, I just heard him, kind of like broaden our perspectives about things, so when he would talk, this is early in the early days following the, what was supposedly the end of the civil rights movement, in the late 60s, early 70s. And so people still kind of steeped into that, and particularly in our community. And he started to really broaden and look at the universal stuff. And, Dick was he was the first person to really talk about apartheid and to talk about the Palestinians and to talk about the Native Americans and, and to really show that this is about human rights and social justice for human beings. And he would never reduce himself to just limiting that the injustices that happen in our society to a group of people. He would support a given cause, whether it was Russell Means and the Native Americans or Cesar Chavez or any of the other movements that were going on, but he always did it in the context that said all of this is wrong. And he inspired Muhammad Ali to really start to look at Ali's position on going to Vietnam, right? So it was, so he started to really open a lot of people's eyes who then went on in their own respective ways to become influential in this whole global movement.
Absolutely. And so please, let's go down that path a little more. I mean, I spend more time, I'd say at this point, 90% of the comments on the Dick Gregory videos are praise, awakenings, eye-opening to information that people never even thought about or even knew. And it's being brought to them through Baba Dick, and they're reconsidering not only what he's saying, but the way they're thinking, but there are just as many people who, when challenged with that thought, feel like, Dick Gregory is just an out and out racist. And I always respond by, are you watching the whole videos? He's far from racist in my book. I mean, can you speak to his love and passion for all?
This goes back to what I said earlier about him being unapologetic. We are so, as a society, we're so conditioned rather to finding ways to soften or to reconcile or to kind of navigate and negotiate how to do things in a way not to offend people. Mm-hmm. But he felt that the offense to human rights superseded anything. Nothing could transcend that. So a lot of the people that you refer to who were against or who were uncomfortable or who thought he was a racist were people that he, as he helped me understand, he said these are people who enjoy the privileges that are associated with injustices. So they're not trying to give up none of that.
Exactly.
They're not. We were at I forgot what college we were at. Some lady came, young student, a white girl came up and said, Mr. Gregory, you talk about a lot of things and you're a vegetarian and blah, 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 but I don't hear you talking about animal rights and blah, blah, blah. He says, well, why are you sitting there talking to me about that with leather shoes on and a leather pocketbook? So that's what I mean by unapologetic in that regard. So, of course, that little girl's feelings were hurt. But then was it because he was telling an untruth? No, he was speaking to the core of the truth of the matter. And that's what he did so brilliantly. And we were in Philly one time, and I had a buddy who had a day program for, like a group program for recovering addicts. That after they had gotten out of rehab and they come, once or twice or 3 times a week, they get together. And we were I ran to the guy who ran the program, and somehow it came up in the conversation that Dick was going to be in town that weekend or that later that week or whatever. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get him to come by and just to stop by. Don't announce it or anything. I'll just do it spontaneously. So the guy said, wow, okay. So I did that. So we were together. We're riding from one point to another. I said, hey, man, listen, I need to make you to make a stop with me real quick. He said, all right, whatever. So he didn't know what it meant or where we were going. He just felt like that, right? So we go and we pull up, get out, go into the side of this place, walk into the room, filled with all these guys and women recovering. And they go, wow, Dick Gregory. And he went in, he said a few things and, stayed a little while, left. We could walk out, leave, get in the car. Mike, he cussed me out and said, why would you not let me know where I was going? He said, do you realize how much information I could have brought those people if I had been properly prepared to take it?
Mm.
So that's how unapologetic and how committed he was to getting truthful information out, you know?
Yeah.
And which reminds me of another fond memory. He had done a lecture at a talk at Bryn Mawr College one time. We were out there, he did his thing. I had done something similar with some folks over at the Bluford School in West Philadelphia, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th graders. So a friend of mine was one of the assistant principal at the time. And I knew the principal all, but anyway, this sister who was the assistant principal, and I were talking, and I talked with Dick. I knew Dick was coming. I said, you know what? Why don't you do this? Dick will be here in town tomorrow. Have the kids tell the teachers in the history that teach history as an assignment. Just don't tell them what it's about. Just tell everybody to do or come in and be prepared to do a report about who Dick Gregory is, right? So I wanted to prepare them.
Mm.
So I did it, and we leave in Bryn Mawr, and we're going to the train. He had to go he had to go right out of town at 30th Street. And on my way to 30th Street, I said, Dick, listen, I need you to stop real quick with me. He said, okay. And so we go, and I pull into the school parking lot. He said, what are we doing here? I said, Dick, listen, just come in 5 minutes, say hello to the kids, and we'll leave. We can still make your train. So I said, he was mad. He said, man, I don't even like kids. I don't know why you even down for
Well, 5 minutes
right?
for Dick Gregory? Come on now. All right, I know where this is going, but anyway.
Because he was adamant about he had to make this 12:30 train because he had to be in D.C. for such and such, whatever. So I figured that was the out for it. So he didn't have to stay. He could, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to honor the commitment. So we go into the school. They had the kids in the library at the Guy Bluford School over on 58th and Media, I think it is, and in West Philly. And we walk into the library. All these kids, must be 50, 60 kids, sitting in a semicircle. They had a little rocking chair in the middle, and they come in, and all the kids go, "Whoa!" They're screaming and everything. So he goes and sits down, and he starts talking to these kids. 5 minutes pass. I'm in the back of the room. I motion to my watch, and he kind of waves me off. He goes on, and he talks some more, and then I kept motioning, and he said, "Man, listen, this train's running all day. Don't bother me."
Well,
and
you put him in his own.
Mike, and he stayed there for an hour, 2 hours, or whatever, right? Took pictures, a big group picture with the kids and everything. I'll share it with you because later on I was talking. Every time he'd leave town, I had to let Lil, his wife, know. Hey, he's gone. I got him to the airport. He's on the train, blah, blah, blah. He got this train. He missed that one. So she could keep up with his schedule. And I said, yeah, well, I just dropped him off, and I told her what had happened with the kids at the school. And she said, are you serious? I said, yeah. We just left there. She said, Glenn. Greg, she called him Greg. She said, Greg has never talked to a group of kids before. It was the first and only time Dick Gregory talked to children.
Wow. So we have a couple questions. I'll get to them. But I know we promised a certain amount of time for you, Glenn. But before, at the beginning of this, you're saying that you feel like he was a medium, that he was pulling information from the universe. People were attracted
Absolutely.
to him. Things happen in magical ways when it comes to Dick Gregory. Last time I saw him, he was telling me how he was literally he said on stage, he said, I had him sign a book, and he said, this is the book that was given to me by aliens from another planet. But and then he told me, like, the whole story was, the Write Me In book was, he got a call that some fragment of a spaceship had fallen somewhere in Pennsylvania, and he got someone to go there and find out what it was, and it turned out that it was the book or something like that. I mean, that just seems like wild to me. I mean, how do you filter that kind of information?
Well, hey Mike, if you and I were in the third grade, and we went to a nice little elementary school, and we had great teachers and everything, right? And then all of a sudden, a guy stops by the school, and he's a nuclear physicist at a local university, and he comes in and starts telling us about his work. We can't even grasp that. He's been exposed to stuff. He understands things that are beyond our comprehension because of the limited nature of what it is we have been exposed to. And that's why I'm telling you, you can't even put Dick Gregory in the category with anybody else that has ever lived on this planet, right? Let me say this to you, Mike. Would you agree that Dick Gregory was world renowned, that people knew who he was all around the world?
Without question.
Would you consider him a celebrity?
Yes. Historically, he's the first. Yeah.
Now, an entertainer.
Glenn, it sounds like I'm talking to Dick Gregory. I can't even expound on the thing. I just yes or no's. All right. Okay. This is 30. This is 39 years of training. I'll go along with it. Yes, sir.
I learned well from him, brother. So listen, what I want you to, and your listeners right now, to resonate, I want this to resonate. How many people of the status of Dick Gregory as an international figure, a celebrity, an entertainer, a public figure, right? Have you ever seen Dick Gregory with security?
Never.
Have you ever seen Dick Gregory just walking down the street somewhere where I heard somebody say, wow, I saw Dick Gregory at 7-Eleven?
Mm-hmm. Lots of stories like that show up on the field.
You ain't never seen nobody else close to that caliber that will be that accessible. This guy was in a class of his own, right? So when I'm telling you, that's why he's like, because he would say, early on, I used to question things like that.
Phone number in the phone book.
I was like, right. He gives anybody his phone number, right? Everybody. Mm-hmm. And I say, Dick, can't go over there, man. I think he said, man, what kind of God would I serve if I got to be scared of them thugs over there? What I got to be scared of?
So we're spiritual beings having a human experience?
Huh?
We're spiritual beings having a human experience?
Exactly. So I'm just saying, this guy was in a class all of himself, all to his own, man. He was not to be compared with anybody else. And people don't even, there's so many things people forget or don't even know about Dick Gregory. When the hostages in America, the American hostages were being held in Iran, Dick Gregory went over to Iran and met with the Ayatollah Khomeini while he was in the middle of a hunger strike.
Well, so
back at JFK, I met him at JFK Airport, coming off the airport. It was such a huge story. Good Morning America at the time was hosted by David Hartman. They did a live open of their show on the tarmac at JFK with Dick Gregory coming off of the airplane. I always remember sitting there looking at him coming like he was Moses coming down from the mountain, because he had this little cloak around him, and he was, in the middle of this hunger strike. So his spiritual thing was up on warp speed, and he was all graceful, and it was, diminutive, and lost all his weight again. And so people forget all about that. This cat was remarkable, man. And, then, not to mention all the stuff he did with weight loss with that Bahamian diet. I remember we were at the, Reggie Duran, and he's like, "Hey Reggie, find me a fat guy." And he said, "What do you mean?" "I mean a big one. Find the biggest person you can. We're gonna put him on the Bahamian diet." And Walter, it'll come to his last name, up in Long Island. The brother lived up there. He weighed 1,000 pounds.
Wow.
And Dick brought him down to 6. He was so big he couldn't even get out of his house. He got him down to 600 pounds, and then they took out the front window in his house and got a crane and lifted him out and put him on a flatbed truck just to get him to the hospital so that they could then kind of monitor his treatment, right? But I'm just saying, this came with some remarkable stuff, right? He and his wife were the first people anywhere to be arrested at the South African embassy right in D.C. They went and protested. She was pregnant at the time. They got arrested protesting apartheid before anybody knew where South Africa was or that there was a South Africa. So this cat was so far ahead of his time.
I agree. So three more questions. I'll just throw them out. Take it wherever you want to go, Glenn. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. So, I mean, one person wanted to know what his morning routine was. I know that he ran and walked a lot. And then I know you're a health expert in terms of the fasting, breaking down things in your system. I mean, you're saying, how does that relate to spirituality? And then how's the family doing? How's Lil? I have not spoken to Lil or Christian or Mark. I have to follow up for sure and thank them again. But those are the three I have. And then if anybody else has anything, I'll repeat it for you.
We were in the airport one time, way, way back before the 9/11 and the nuke screening, and you couldn't go, back when anybody could walk you right to the gate of the airplane that would send you off. So we're sitting in the waiting room waiting on a plane to go somewhere. And this old white dude came up and walked by and said, "Oh my God, it's Dick Gregory. I can't believe Dick Gregory. Wow, I've been following you since Kent State and blah, blah, blah. And I did this." And, he said, "Man, I'm just so thrilled to meet you." And he went on and on. So he said, "I always wanted to know something though. What does your doctor think about all that fasting and stuff you do?" He said, "Man, my doctor been dead 30 years. So, but I don't. Dick always had. I can't single out any one particular thing, but I know one of the things he would do. He would drink a cup of coffee in the morning sometimes, and he would get some capsules of cayenne and put it in the coffee, just black coffee with all this cayenne in it, and stir it up and drink that. And he was always, had some kind of always drinking green stuff, and he was a water. He loved water. And he just went through life,
Yeah, I mean, when we're in DC, when we came down, I met him at his apartment building, and we were talking. He said he was walking 2 or 3 miles every morning, rain or shine.
Yeah.
And he didn't eat a lot of food. He was very skinny. Just raw food primarily. A little slightly paranoid. I mean, I knew he was vegetarian, and we brought fruit. He refused to eat any of the food that we had there for him.
Hey, listen, Mike, I know a lot of black people won't eat nothing if they don't know where it came from.
Hey, well, I recognize. I'm saying I recognize immediately. He didn't know us. He literally just showed up and was sharing information. But then we had all this like fresh fruit cup, apples, bananas, and stuff. He wouldn't touch any of that. We had to take it home. But there was a big tub of white yogurt pretzels. And when he didn't eat or drink any water the whole time he was talking. And then when he was done, man, he tore up every one of them pretzels. He opened that up. He just didn't stop munching and stuff. So that's a memory I have of him. And then driving him back home was crazy because I was following the GPS, and he said, "You can make a right here." And the GPS says, "Well, it says go straight." And he freaked out. It's like literally, he said, "I told you how to go." And it's like, oh my God, you don't trust me? It's like, we got there anyway. But he was right because the GPS took us down
And that was
a one-way
another
street.
example. That's another example how he absolutely, unequivocally trusted his internal communication with the universe.
Mm.
And for you to question that over some kind of little gadget was appalling to him. That's the kind of stuff that would just freak him out. You know, little things when you would rely on stuff like that. And I also want to real quickly touch on a side of Dick Gregory that nobody would really understand. You know, we'd be riding or walking down the street or something, and he said, "Man, this is a CVS or is it a Rite Aid or is it whatever? I need to pick up a couple of things." So he'd go, be a homeless dude sitting out front. You know, he'd, "Excuse me, y'all, can you spare some change?" Dick's out, "Wait till I come out." Dick will come out, get a guy $100. We get to airports, the red cap, the sky cap. He tip him $50, $100. 30th Street Station, those red caps. You know, $100, $200 just to carry his bag to the car.
Wow.
And, you know, hell, Bellman. That was, you know, the generosity of this cat was unbelievable. So, which is why, and a lot of people also want to touch on, a lot of people don't know, Dick Gregory, at the height of his Bohemian diet and all of this, you know, was a multi-millionaire. Had a 500-acre farm up in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and baby blue Rolls Royce, Bentley, and all kinds of, I mean, and his generosity was just unending. He gave everything almost that he had away.
Yeah. So
because
what we heard is true. They had to raise extra money for service and things like that. They had to wait a little bit.
Well, I don't know the intricacies of it, and but I do know that it wasn't like Dick Gregory died and they went into his bank account and came up with the money to do that. So it required some effort, absolutely.
Right. And it was an amazing service, and everybody came out, you know, and you know, part of that is on the channel. But and Lil, how's she doing? Have you talked to her? And
yes, I've been in touch with her. She's doing fine. She's got a birthday coming up in November, and she's doing fine. I'm in touch with Kristen and Gregory and Michelle and Paula and all of them. You know, so everybody's, you know, moving through it. You know, and as that, you know, like all of us, you know, when it comes to losing a parent, you know, and it's real difficult, particularly difficult or challenging, I should say, because you lose a parent like him, and he was somebody who basically belonged to everybody else in a different view. So it wasn't like, you know what I mean? So they have to like share the loss in a way that many of us would never even imagine having to do.
Well, Dick Gregory, definite class act, and you know, the last time I saw him was at Helium with you. We took the picture, and then I wanted him to sign the poster. Literally, the last moment I saw him with my eyes, we filmed it, and he like signed this autograph. He's like, "I'm out," and that was like the last moment I have of him. Yeah. And I said, "Wow, that's like this guy. He passed that Sharpie like it was a baton. He put so much weight on my shoulders, man. I can't even tell you." But I know you were there the last week.
Yeah, I was at the hospital after the last day. I got a call and said he wanted me to come to the hospital, and I was there. I went down, and then on Friday, I think it was, and then I came back. I left later that night, and then got another call to come. You need to get right back down there. So I got back down there. So I was there, and along with a few other his family, obviously, and some very close friends. And I was honored that to be considered somebody that he wanted to be there. And so I was able to, you know, have that kind of moment with him. And I do want to share a personal thing about since his transition. A month or so after that, I was asleep at home. And you ever heard how people come to you in your dream?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't come to me in my dream. I was dreaming and he appeared, which is totally different.
Right.
And this may sound crazy as some of the stuff he'd have said over the years. So I looked up and he was coming down a hallway, and he came in and I was standing there saying, "Wow, I was just talking to your wife about you the other day." He said, "I don't want to talk about that right now. I can't talk." He said, "I ain't ready to deal with that right now." Mm-hmm. And so there was a telephone on the table standing between us. And it was an old-fashioned telephone with the rotary dial and that whole thing. And he picked it up and unscrewed the bottom of it that you talk in. And if you're old enough, you remember you could unscrew those things, and they had the little speaker, little disc in there that had that you could talk into.
That's how they used to tap them phones.
Right. And he took that out and put it in his pocket, and he said, "I'm going to stay in touch with you." And he turned around and walked back down this hall.
Wow.
Now, it was a dark hall, so he just kind of like faded away. I couldn't see him anymore, but that was the last, communication. Mm-hmm. And I do talk with him. He guides me. He definitely has made a direct and an indelible stamp on my life. Made me more apologetic. He helped me to understand what real courage was, and how to really manifest courage when you're speaking truth and speaking truth to power. So I'll always be grateful that for whatever reason that the universe saw fit that I was somebody that was chosen, or whatever you want to call it, to have the ability to be that close to somebody like Dick Gregory.
Well, thank you for sharing your memories with him. So, I should ask, so last week I'm sure was he lucid? Was he communicating with people? Because I thought he was going to live to 100. I thought I'd always see him. I was afraid to see him again, but it was so unexpected, but also so fitting in a way, because there are very few people that can have 50, 60 years in show business and really still be relevant, still be on top. The last shows I'd go see him, they were completely sold out, and people would just line up at the gate for him, and T-shirts and memes and all that kind of stuff. Very few people in show business have that resilience, but in terms of the last week, any.
Let me say this about that. I remember he always used to he had so many little sayings that he said, "Man, I don't mind dying. I just want to be healthy until I do." And as you well know, toward the end, he was very frail. He was, not as steady on his feet as he normally was. But once he got up on that stage, you could stand there for 2 or 3 hours and go nonstop, right? And only stop then because finally the club manager or somebody with him would say, "Give him you have to stop now." And August the 15th, Dick Gregory performed at a club in in Atlanta. And he was supposed to go from there on the 17th to do a club in Portland, I think Portland, Oregon. And he wasn't feeling well, was dizzy or just wasn't feeling well. And they decided to cancel that show in Portland so he could go back to DC to go to the doctor and get checked out. But on the 16th, 17th, he was feeling worse. They took him to the hospital. They admitted him to the hospital. And he died August 19th. All the way to the end, this cat was on stage, basically, right? We should all be able to live that kind of life, that it's almost kind of like, like a cigarette. You take a cigarette and you light it and you don't smoke it, but you just sit it in the ashtray lit and it just burns out. And then you have this whole line of like this ash, nothing is left. Dick Gregory gave us everything he had. He didn't leave nothing. It wasn't like he had another song, he had another book, or he gave us everything. and then moved on to the next one.
Yeah, you can't do any better than that. Well, amen to that. C. Mason said yes. I think the church is saying amen on that. So I don't I really appreciate you taking the time, Glenn Ellis. And where can people find you and keep up with you? And because I mean, information is the best medicine, of course.
Yes. Well, and my website is glennellis.com. Glenn with 2 N's, glennellis.com, and you can, follow my work there. And, I used to get calls at all hours of the night because people were calling me from literally all around the world because they would reach out to Dick Gregory for some health or medical related thing. And he would say, listen, call this guy. And I get these calls at 3 a.m. from people in Bangkok or from somebody in Moscow or people in Kenya or people on the West Coast. Wow. Dick Gregory told me to call you, and so I have to work it through. So I became the go-to guy for him. And even for his own personal stuff. He had a lot. He had developed cancer at one point that he was told that there was a cancer. He said, you can't. This is a cancer caused by radiation. He said, you'd have to work in a nuclear power plant to be exposed to this kind of radiation. So that been his true belief that something was being done to him. But he had that episode. He had a lot of, periodic, not a lot, but he had periodic episodes where he was facing some real serious health problems. And I'm honored that he would, defer to me as somebody to be a part of that group of folks that was advising him on how to take care of himself. So that was really one of the among the great honors that he actually was able to share with me to show me how he could be so generous and stuff. And I always feel like I have an ongoing obligation to uphold what I know he gave me. Mm-hmm. And so that's why, to the best of my ability, is unapologetic about the work I do in terms of exposing and revealing truths about healthcare and medicine and dispelling myths and all the things that have continued to keep Black folks on lockdown in terms of our behaviors and how we're able to really live full, meaningful lives.
Yeah, well, Baba Dick, he certainly helped us focus our intention for the channel, and people discover the videos and rewatch them every day. And it's, I guess, part of my duty to keep that banner waving, to keep providing information, because it's not that it's hidden from us, but maybe we don't always have time to understand it, or maybe it is about seeking the truth and trusting people that have the wisdom. So yeah, I envy you, Glenn. I really appreciate the time, and thank you for holding the mantle up. So yeah, and drink lots of water, right? That's the main thing.
Yes, sir.
And walk 2 hours a day if you can.
Yeah, and Dick was actually a track star. He held the record in the state of Illinois for the mile. Mm-hmm. For many years. I think it just recently got broken, but he was a track still. He was a runner by nature, which is how he got to Southern Illinois University on scholarship. And he always reminded us that the best things for your health don't cost you nothing, which is rest, water, air, fresh air. And if you don't acknowledge those things, there's no way all the vitamins and the herbs in the world ain't going to help you. But you do those things and you won't need the other thing.
It's rest, water, air. Just sharing it. And if you're in DC, they're doing tomorrow for Dick Gregory's birthday. There's a special performance. Do you know if it's open to the public?
It is. What's the name of it? It's
the one-man play.
Yeah.
You got me.
Oh man, my mind just went blank. I was with them. It was up on It opened off Broadway.
Yeah, with Joe
right
Morton. Yeah,
with Joe Morton.
Yeah.
There's a brother, Joe Morton, because is already scheduling commitments. Is not a part of this, but in talking to Kristen, the guy who's doing this role now has a better performance than Joe Morton. That he blows this thing away. And it's going to be running in DC for a couple of weeks, but it's definitely a must see to go and see this thing that really just showed. And it's really not somebody trying to portray Dick Gregory, but it really is done to. It's called Turn Me Loose.
Turn Me Loose. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I had a chance to see it with Joe Morton, and it's extremely well written, and it's a tour de force for whomever plays it. I suspect that the new performer has a little extra help from up above. So if you're in the DC area, look for Turn Me Loose. It's supported, and the more it's supported, the more likely John Legend and crew can get it to Broadway.
Right, which is mentioned that John Legend is actually behind this.
Yes.
John Legend and Will and Jada Smith are involved, are executive producers of it as well.
Fantastic.
So this is not something to take. And Christian has a lot of other projects coming up that people are going to be really excited to hear about. And I think they should really stay tuned and just keep your eyes out. Which is why what you're doing. That's why what you're doing is so important, man. You know what I mean?
Appreciate it.
So important. And you just keep this moving.
I appreciate you. So we're gonna move on. Thank you, Glenn Ellis.
Man, thank you.
And I'll text you afterwards. I guess all I have to do is hang up on you. All right, be well, man. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in on this one.
All right, Glenn Ellis, everybody. So he's joined us via Skype. The play it played in New York, and it's in DC starting tomorrow to commemorate Dick Gregory's birthday. Turn Me Loose. And I haven't read anything, but you can Google it. But Glenn is saying that it's running for about 2 weeks in DC, and it's definitely worth seeing. It's when Joe Morton performed it, it's like great because he literally controls the whole stage. I don't know if there's an intermission, but he'll shift from old, Carmex scooping Baba Dick to young, chain smoking 1964 Jack Parr Dick. And there's like, the majority of the monologues come right from Dick Gregory's stand-up routines. It's really a very great experience to watch that. And for those who only know a fragment of Dick Gregory's legacy, it was a great tribute for them to put that together during his lifetime. So moving on, I did want to share a couple things. I'm gonna see if I can get Charles on the line because we got some news. How you guys holding up? We're doing roll call. Peace out to Baba Dick. Hang on, we're gonna get Charles Woods on the line in a second. But where people we had Atlanta. Somebody said they're from St. Louis. A couple people from Georgia. A couple of people from New York. Anybody out west yet? Checking in. We lost about 10 people, but we'll get some more people back. And if you guys are enjoying this, we'll keep doing these. But this is a special one. I gotta put the speaker on so that you guys don't hear Charles's number. Do you have a relationship with Dr. Sebi? I'm sure they were all connected. I know I did see that question. Glenn promised us 15 minutes and he gave us nearly an hour, so I didn't want to push him too hard on the questions. Las Vegas, out west, Minnesota. I'm gonna be in Gary. Anybody in Chicago, Gary, Indiana area? I'll be there this weekend for the Gary Film Festival. So please, if you can, come out and support it. Tell people that they need to come support some Black films out there. So I called Charles a while ago. Let's see if he answers the phone and if he can hear him. And I did want to share. I got this. I don't know. I don't even know how to frame that, but that I got Baba to sign that. So no, you can't have it.
Hello?
Charles,
Hey, Mike, what's up?
are you good? Can we talk for a few minutes or no? I got you on speaker. We're streaming live.
I'm kind of out of it, but what's up?
Kanye and The Rock. And then right now we're talking about Dick Gregory. We just had Glenn Ellis on the line. This was a commission piece that we presented to Dick Gregory. This is the backup. I asked to have a copy made for me, but Stacy Wilson did this for us, commissioned it, and we gave this as a gift because Dick Gregory didn't.
Was Glenn the one who came out and was taken?
Yeah, he was his main Philly entourage for 39 years. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So I met Glenn.
Yeah, can you hear Charles okay? I got him on the speaker thing. So yeah, it was and then this is the program for his celebrating the life of a legend. This is the actual funeral book that they handed out. Oh, there's a track star. I'm just doing show and tell right now while you get your strength.
This you're looking at now is what?
The booklet.
From the funeral?
The funeral booklet. I'm just showing pages from it. I don't know if anybody ever bothered to scan this and put it online, but it is beautiful. Maybe I'll get the chance. I'm not gonna be able to do it right away, but maybe I'll scan it if it hasn't already been scanned, just so people can read it and see it. I know a lot of people that watch us would love to have a chance to read that. Flint, Michigan, just rest in air. Stop hating on Flint. Flint has a lot going for. I'm not going to say anything bad about Flint. We're using positive energy today. I don't have any Flint jokes, but what's up? We got Charles. We got 52. Can people hear Charles? Okay, Charles, give us a test 1 2.
1 2 1 2.
Is that working for people or no? It's a different sound quality. I got them. Somebody can they hear Charles? Good. Okay, so we're in business, Charles. So,
peace and blessings to the real black family.
Yes, sir. I know you were out all day. I don't know if you got a chance to see Kanye at the White House with Jim Brown. I don't know if anybody did. It blew Twitter up pretty big. I watched a little bit of it before we came on, and I'm ready to trade Kanye in the race draft. We can get garbage picks for him at this point. It's really I can't defend him, and I don't know if there's any saving him. He was literally he had Candace Owens on one side and Jim Brown on the other, and they let him rant for 10 minutes in a purely narcissistic way. It was supposed to be talking about jail and prison industrial. They started off with that, and then from what I saw, a good 7 or 8 minutes was just about his place in the universe and how the Trump hat was like a Superman cape for him because people told him not, to black people should be Democrats, and that he felt that Trump was in his hero journey, and that we all need to support Trump, and ultimately that he thinks that bringing more jobs back to the United States will help him lower the cost of his sneaker prototype, which right now it costs him $300 to make a sneaker, and he's hoping that Trump has the power within him to allow Kanye to make cheaper sneakers for us all. So that's what I got from it. I don't know if anybody else got anything more from it, but
well, yeah, I told you, Mike. Kanye's middle name is Omari, and so He's Kanye O. West, and that's the anagram for yes, not wait.
Yes, not
Wake.
wake, not wake. WAKE.
Yes.
Well, one of the things he said was that he's not bipolar. He was misdiagnosed. He's not bipolar. He had his brain scanned, and his intelligence level is at the 98th percentile of all human beings, and that really he was suffering from sleep deprivation, and that will eventually cause dementia for him. But that's what his problem is. And I'm like, sleep deprived Kanye, there's no way this brother is woke. That was my joke.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying.
He can't be sleep deprived. He's been asleep all this time.
But Kanye is not the person he was before. I mean, you look at his old lyrics. He was, he was attacking this racist culture for what it is. But what happens is, what we have to understand in this culture, as I told you the other night, when you have a people who have no love, no sympathy, no sense of decency toward Black people, they control the culture through the narrative, the gatekeepers. We're all bipolar in this culture. I mean, I look at bipolar is we're polarized by this culture. We're at each other's throats. Kanye coming out and saying what he's saying, he's different from what he was before. Some people attribute it to his losing his mother, who was very much a large part of his life. But the thing is, this is reminiscent of a moment where you had a man saying, "Can't we all get along?" That's what Claude Anderson talks about. When you're in a captive society, and then you're in love with those who have captured you. That's what this culture is doing to us. It's what Fanon speaks about when he talks about black skin, white mask. We don't want to be who we are. We're too busy saluting and loving those people who don't love us. So we're all bipolar in that sense, until that's what being awake or woke means, when you get a consciousness that divorces you from this colonization that we're under, this oppression we're under. For someone to come out and we're Make America Great and celebrate someone like Trump, who obviously is someone who doesn't give a damn about us, this is atrocious.
Well, the other person, Candace Owens, I'm not even going to speak about, but Jim Brown, he also was a huge hero for a lot of Black folks and spoke Black empowerment. He's prominently featured in the Black documentary, Black Hollywood documentary that we have a snippet of on the Paul Mooney Black Hollywood clip. And people listen to that and they're like, amen, brother. But now it seems that, he literally he did at the press conference today, he was on the White House lawn saying that as a former football player, he personally feels that people should not be kneeling but standing for the flag.
Who is this, Brother Jim?
Jim Brown, yeah. And also Jennifer Pryor, she tweeted that she's that she was raped by Jim Brown, so she got her dig in on Jim. But,
well, once again, like I said, the other night we were discussing Brother Bill. I had a lot of respect for Jim Brown, what he's going through, his history. He was, someone when I was coming up. He made Black men feel proud and whatnot. It's surprising. It happens to so many, where they get sarcastic, they get cynical, and it turns. It turns after a while, because let me tell you, there are a lot of people who've been fighting in the movement for our liberation and freedom, and then all of a sudden they get frustrated where they feel, well, what is this fighting for? Because we got black folk who just seem to want to do the wrong thing. That's the attitude they get. They feel like it's a lost cause.
Well, but
And
Jim,
then they
he
turn.
helped stop the gang violence in Los Angeles at one point with his American.
That was one of the beautiful things about Jim. Jim was courageous to do that. He brought the gangs together. I mean, like I said, I don't agree with him on this front, and I'm not going to condemn him because we don't see eye to eye on this front. But I just can't see, why he's opposed to this stance. But he's entitled to his opinion.
Yeah. We've seen it before. I mean, black celebrities. We're talking about Dick Gregory, celebrities and then athletes and entertainers. So today we had an athlete and an entertainer at the White House, and they basically made it all about themselves. From what I can tell, I still have to watch the whole thing, but we've seen it in the past where Sammy Davis endorsing and James Brown endorsing Nixon. It hurt a lot of their fans in the black community, felt betrayed by their actions. Are we a monolith? Is the other question, Charles.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say. It's stupidity to think that there's a monolithic sentiment among black folk. That's ridiculous. But the thing is, what would make us strong and powerful is if we can come together on the commonality that as black people, we face oppression. And the only way we can liberate ourselves and see the freedom and be in a position to determine our own destinies and to determine what happens to us, the conditions that we want that will justify our existence in a way that gives us the medical care we deserve, gives us the education we deserve, allows us to live in decent housing that we deserve like anyone else. The only thing that's going to make us powerful and free is we have to come together on our commonality of blackness. And the reason why that never happens is because this culture is run by brilliant men. As I told you before, money, millions and billions of dollars goes into think tanks. And just think about that, think tanks. People who study how to best control us. Mm-hmm. And they know this, they have it down to a science. All we have is our leaders who just are at each other's throats. You have black people who disrespect or didn't feel that Obama did anything for black folks. Okay? So when we're at each other's throats and we can come together, or we can have a few that we rely on to speak for us, to speak in favor of our oppressor, the society is working for those who run this country.
I understand.
And we'll never see freedom so long as this exists. And this is what, like I say, people like Brother Claude Anderson, this is what he speaks about. We have to know the nature of oppression and colonization and how it's used to make us hate each other more than we can go after those who truly hate us and do everything they can to keep us in their control.
I definitely agree. Now, we have a few people that are still rolling with Kanye. Like I said, y'all can have him in the draft. You can have to be named laters on Kanye and Jim Brown right now. I just can't defend the actions, and I do. Up until now, I mean, the MAGA hat as a symbol is troubling to me, especially in light of his past actions. And I think that he really should not be out in public speaking on things that he really does not have full information about, because he may say one or two things that make perfect sense, but then he'll tie it to something that's completely esoteric, and it just reveals his narcissism. It's like, really, he is about himself. And that's fine. Be Kanye. We love when you make music that comes from your soul. But when you come out and you're speaking about political things or things that really, like, you have a concept of reality that exists of your own making because you have so much money, opportunity, and resources to basically invent whatever you want. It's still, you're still sharing the world with people that don't have those freedoms. And a lot of people, I wouldn't say look up to you, but have a different sense of what reality is than this sort of manga enhanced um, features kind of world that Kanye prefers to exist in. And I think when he's on Planet Kanye, it's great for art, it's great for the culture. But when he tries to bring his perception into the reality of what's happening within this government, within the whole planet, it's not just the United States that's encountering this kind of backlash against. It's not just racism, but it's it's global what's going on, because there is a fear of a black planet, I feel. And I think Kanye should try to be a little more informed or be quiet and put the record out we've been waiting for. But that's my feeling, and you're entitled to your opinions too. I mean, we're here to share. And then the other news, Charles. Twitter was going lit up yesterday because The Rock dropped a teaser trailer for John Henry that's going to be on Netflix, where he's going to play John Henry, and there are going to be other sort of mythical, historical characters that he's interacting with. And I don't know if everybody went crazy, but The Root certainly capitalized off of it by saying, well, why can't The Rock stay in his lane? What Terry Crews was busy, like they seem to prefer a more darker skinned actor to play the role of John Henry. I don't know what your feelings are about that.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we were supposed to speak to the great stuntman Bob Miner, and one of the things I was going to ask him, and this is weeks ago, Mike, is I was going to say, you would have been great to play John Henry. And then this comes up where The Rock is thinking about playing this part.
Yeah, John Henry, mythological figure. John Henry's a steel driving man, basically set at the beginning of the industrial age, strong black man. He's competing against a machine in terms of laying railroad track, and it was 50 miles of railroad track, and he outdoes the machine, but at the end he dies. Right, so that's the first hero ain't nothing but a sandwich.
You get called John Henry, the first Hammer and Hank.
Hammer and Hank.
Yeah.
I don't know. He beat him, but he died. That's the story of our life, right?
Hank is the nickname for Henry.
Yes.
But once again, I mean, I think we addressed this issue the last time we spoke. Colorism, one of the ways they keep us at each other is the dark versus the light. And once again, I mean, with The Rock, who's the biggest star in Hollywood, he's a superstar. But what happens is, for blacks to be superstars in Hollywood, for the most part, that they can't make black films. Okay, so I think the issue is that they're questioning why would Rock want to play a black man all of a sudden, where he's never really played a black man in his body of work?
Yeah,
And
well,
the thing is,
he was, along with Vin Diesel, that action hero that was sort of ethnically ambiguous, which was great for the time, the 2000s, where you could, if you were an action fan, you could look at The Rock and identify with him. If you were white, if you were Italian, if you were black, if you were Hispanic, he was so ambiguous. He is so ambiguous in his look that everybody can imprint their emotions into his persona. However, I would argue that, I'd say 90% of the films, he's never denied his ethnicity in any of his roles. It's just been downplayed in some cases, but not all.
well, the point I'm going to make is, we have to realize it's show business. It's it's business. It's what's going to make the most money. And the films that make the most money, they don't want to deal with race as an issue. They want to project Rock not as a black man, but as an action star. Okay? Fred Williamson, he said here in America, when he made movies, he was a black movie star. He said, but when he did it over in Europe, he was recognized as an action star. See, here, it's always about race. Eddie Murphy, for the most part, did not make black films. The only superstar, I would say, when I say superstar, someone who his films made a ton of money and his films were about race, is Sidney Poitier. But the context of the times were different. The zeitgeist was that his films had to deal with race because that's what the issues were when he was making films. But over the course of time, when things supposedly got better progressively on a social level, socialistically, they wanted to mute the race issue as much as possible. And that's what happened when you would get a Richard Pryor, and when he would pass the baton over to Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, for the most part, did not make black films. If you want to think they were black films, it's only because of Eddie Murphy's blackness. When Lou Gossett got the supporting Oscar for An Officer and a Gentleman, that role was not written race specifically for a black man. If you saw him as a black man, it was because of Lou Gossett's blackness. But that was not a black part. Do you get what I'm saying?
I completely understand.
Okay, so The Rock is going to make the money he makes. His films are going to make the money they make because they know you have to get away from the race issue and not deal with the race issue, deal with the theme of someone fighting monsters, someone fighting whatever it is that they have to go against, but not a black man against a white man. If they do that, they're not going to make the money.
Okay.
All
right. So, all right, we got to stop the show for a second. We got Rule here. He wants attention. What's the problem? Ask a question, Rule, and then maybe we can address it. But just because it's a show, we changed the topic, and you still wanted to deal with something else, that I can't control that. You can watch it over again. But if you have a question, we're happy to address it. Otherwise, it's just deaf ears at this point, man. I read it. So yeah, I mean, bottom line is about the dollar. The Rock has the power to get films made. He's chosen to play a mythological figure, African-American hero, and The Root has chosen to criticize. I didn't see any Time magazine getting upset. Why don't you stay in your lane? What does it say, like a black online publication like The Root, they used the opportunity of this announcement to sort of bring out the light skin, dark skin. Why can't Terry Crews get the job? Kind of thing. Is it appropriate? Do you feel any kind of way about in your imagination? Did you have any expectations about who should play John Henry besides Bob Miner?
Well, I mean, I thought of Bob Miner because of the images I knew of John Henry. John Henry, the image I saw of John Henry, he was a dark-skinned man. Mm-hmm. But getting to the point I made about show business is who can put the most booties in the seat. Mm-hmm. Terry Crews can't do what Rock does. Okay? And the truth be told, when we talk about colorism, the blacker you are, the more you're not going to really be a well, it's changed. It's more so with the black actress. The darker the black actress, she won't get the leading role, especially a romantic part. But we've had dark-skinned leading men in Hollywood. Wesley Snipes. Mm-hmm. Sidney Poitier wasn't the first anomaly of a dark-skinned man being a leading man in Hollywood. Sidney Poitier, he got the role because Harry Belafonte turned him down. Porgy and Bess was supposed to be played by Harry Belafonte. He refused to do it because he was not going to play some man on his knees. Okay?
Right.
But Sidney had to take a lot of those parts because Sidney couldn't do what Harry does. Sidney couldn't make money singing and performing. Sidney had to rely on motion pictures. Sidney didn't want to play in Porgy and Bess. He was forced to do it. They told him it's either or. That's another thing that happens in Hollywood. But getting back to a Terry Crews, even Sam Jackson, who wants to tout the fact that he's, they go back and forth, who's made the most money as an actor. Sam Jackson can't open no film. He has to play a supporting role for the most part, okay? So the thing is, the way they know they can sell a Rock or a Vin Diesel is by putting them in racially ambiguous roles where they don't play up the black factor. Because once you play up the black factor, you've lost millions of dollars at the box office. All you have to do is look at the letters that remember those letters where they talked about Denzel Washington and how much money he cost them when he did The Equalizer.
Yeah. So, but I mean, Netflix is a slightly different story where I'm sure they went to him and said, "What would you like to do?" And this is something that he presented to them. But I know we're working on a longer colorism piece, but I feel like the House Negro, Field Negro issue is something that definitely comes into play when talking about light-skinned actors playing John Henry.
Well, I went through that bull crap in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. When I was in Vietnam in '68, that's at the height of when the Black Power movement was starting. And I had brothers want to tell me, well, you got to kink up your hair. I've had fights all through my life with dark-skinned brothers wanting to project onto me as a light-skinned brother. You always had it easy and whatnot. That may very well be. But there was a term that came up during that time. Mm-hmm. Blacker than thou. See, this is division. This blacker than thou thing, black folk will tell you, if you're black, you're black. Okay, maybe there's degrees of blackness the same way there are degrees of whiteness. And I will tell you, it's a fact that a lighter skinned black, for the most part, has had it easier than a darker skinned black. But the whole thing is, if we get caught up on colorism, which we do, we're playing into the system's design of divide and conquer. It's keeping us at each other's throat. Okay? And so The root may be, you know, there's two sides to every story. They may have a point with this, but the thing is, when Will Smith played the doctor in Concussion, did anyone raise the skin tone issue there? Because he did not look like the doctor he played. Okay, we had it when Diana Ross played Billie Holiday and Lady Sings the Blues. There was the skin tone thing, the look. Sidney Poitier was one of the first actors to play Thurgood Marshall. And what's the name? You know, when Boseman
Chadwick,
played
yeah.
Chadwick, yes, when he played Thurgood, there was questions there.
So there's
the thing is, you know, he did it. He did the part. There wasn't the big outcry that they had with Zoe playing Nina.
Right.
And I think what hurt there is the makeup looks so much like minstrel. It looks terrible. But the thing is, Sidney Poitier did a film called A Warm December. The actress he was in love with was supposed to be an African. The actress who played the part, Esther Anderson, she was in dark makeup. Okay? Shaft in Africa with Vanetta McGee.
Right,
Richard Roundtree looked more African than she did.
Right. So we have a lot of work to do on that. So we did get a question from I just want to go back from Rule. Yeah, I so the question, do I know anybody that we're talking about besides Dick Gregory? Yes. You know, The Rock was one of the first people ever to be on Real Black TV. For Gridiron Gang, we had an opportunity to interview him, and he's very specific. In our interview, we asked him about being racially ambiguous and how he identifies, and he says, I'm a proud black man, or something to that extent. So yes, I've met The Rock. Kanye, never met, but I know a lot of people in the circle. So a lot of our early videos were with John Legend when he was still performing here in Philly on open mics. Basically, we have a lot of early footage with John Legend, and I have in my possession a lot of early demos that John and Kanye did together. So I followed Kanye's story probably as closely, if not more, than anyone. And it's just, like I said, it's disappointing. So I can't defend him right now because I don't know what's going on, and I think it's something that's a little more chemical and emotional than it needs to be. And I just I think it's very difficult to decipher what he's trying to do, other than the fact that his main characteristic is narcissism. And as I've said on the radio, as far as Kanye goes, it's like, yeah, we loved him when he spoke up and said George Bush doesn't care about black people, and we felt a certain way and identified. And that's something he says that spoke to his soul today, after he did his long diatribe. I don't even know how people allow him to talk as long as he does without interrupting him, other than the fact that they perceive power from him. But I think, Charles, how do you say you have 2 years in one mouth? How's it go?
Yeah, I think what happens too often, people, they fail to realize that they have 2 ears and one mouth, and they always do more talking than listening. If you listen, you can hear a lot, you can learn a lot. Right. Listen and learn, and then talk. And when you talk, know what the hell you're talking about. As I said the other night, we have people who are getting information, and it's misinformation. It doesn't make sense. No one's studying. If Kanye says something, because people love Kanye, then right away they caping for Kanye.
And it's nice, that Kim Kardashian can show up at the White House and get a woman wrongly imprisoned out. And I do think that there's some role to be had where it's better to be inside than outside. And you see a lot of people really fighting hard to stay within that Trump administration rather than just quit because they feel they have more influence, being in there as opposed to outside criticizing. But I just, I don't think that I think that the guy has too much money. He surrounds himself with a lot of the wrong people. They enable him to, who are able to enable his dreams and wild, dark, twisted fantasies, and that's great for music. But he, he. I think if you're an entertainer or athlete and you're invited to the White House to sit with Trump, don't make it an event that's going to be photographed. And if you do go, bring some people with you that actually know what they're talking about. Candace Owens is not a good advocate, and Jim Brown, sorry, they weren't talking about any kind of empowerment or change as far as I know. And if one or two people get out of jail because Kanye dropped their names, and that's great, but it's not helping to alter the system. And I think that the writing is on the wall. What's going on is what's going on. We need Marvin Gaye. You don't need Marvin Gaye to tell you what's happening right now. People are being exploited. But anyway, I don't know. Final thoughts. Do you have any Dick Gregory thoughts? Because this will bring us back full circle, and we can close.
Well, I mean, when I think of Dick Gregory, and knowing how I'm feeling now, two things. How the man was always studying, always reading, always analyzing what was in print, always trying to seek and find the universal truth. The other thing is that I want to, he inspired me, is I want to really get into my health, do the walking, eat right. And because, back in the day, it was not just the mind that was important. It was also the physical body. What good is the mind if the temple is not healthy to contain it?
Without question. I again, to echo Glenn Ellis, I do feel blessed that he gifted us with his wisdom, and that we happen to be the conduit to share the information. It certainly brought us power together to continue to speak about these things from our perspective, and I really appreciate everybody taking the time to hang out with us tonight. Any final thoughts from the crowd? Any questions? Anything you want to ask Charles? Is everybody happy? Can we be happy? I'll be like Kanye. I just preach love. I like Hillary and Trump. I just want everybody to love one another, and not necessarily buy into the divide and conquer, but still reserve the right to criticize and strive for excellence. That's my perspective. But Dick Gregory loved the turtle, soft on the inside, hard on the outside, and willing to stick his neck out. Well, that's a great way to close. C. Mason gets the prize of the day. She hung out the entire hour and 38. I think she's the first. Is it C. Mason? I'm assuming it's a she. I'm sorry. I don't even know. You should clarify the C. But in my mind, C. Mason is a she. Very attractive she. Hopefully it's not. If it's a dude, I'm in trouble.
Well, you're going to get some wisdom from a Mason.
There you go. Look, I'm not trying to get in trouble with anybody else. Charles Mason. Charles, you got another Charles here. Charles stuck around the whole time. Thank you. Gail, I'm assuming, is a woman. William, I got you, Charles. Charles Mason, I am a dude. All right, well, I apologize. In my mind, I messed up. Can't fix that other than to apologize. Don't replay this video later when I'm up for an Oscar, Charles, and say this guy, he's full of it. Anyway, not that Oscars are important or anything. Your time is so valuable. It's the only thing that we all have the same amount of hours in the day, and I appreciate everyone who watched and spent their time with us. And it feels like a full meal, Charles. I hope you're feeling better. And I will call. I'll be posting videos from Gary, going to Michael Jackson house for sure, and I'm gonna eat some deep dish pizza, and I have some friends that I'm gonna hang out with, some interviews. We're gonna be filming in Chicago, so you'll see me on the road. I got stacks of things to post. I didn't get as much done as I wanted to as far as new content, but we'll be posting every day while I'm on the road and beyond. And I'm thinking next Thursday we'll be streaming again. But have an awesome day, and keep watching the videos. And feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Charles, I'll give you the final words.
Peace and blessings to our wonderful woke family.
All right. Thanks for watching. And we love everybody. And conversation, what is it, sharpens knives. We're not mad at anybody because we all got our opinions. What is it? Sharpens tongues. How do you say it, man, Charles? Debate sharpens tongues.
Debate sharpens mind. Argument sharpens tongue.
Right. So it's all love. And please like, comment, subscribe. Peace and blessings. Have a great night, guys.